Welcome back to Your Productivity Pulse with Michelle Ocherick-Dale, a place and a space beyond the checklist, a place where we can reimagine what productivity looks like for you. The other day, I looked at the calendar and I had to do a double take. It was Friday again, which honestly, how did that even happen? And then I looked a little closer and realized we are almost halfway through the year. And that had me thinking. How many people right now are looking at their to-do lists and trying to figure out what's next, or better yet, where do I start first? And how many of us are sitting there waiting for some kind of magic start day to finally feel motivated enough to engage? A Monday, a new month, a new season, something that gives us the feeling of, okay, now I can begin. That question sent me down a bit of a rabbit hole, and I found myself landing on a study out of Wharton School of Business, penned by researchers Dye, Milkman, and Rees, called the Fresh Start Effect: Temporal Landmarks Motivate Aspirational Behavior. Now, although I found the study fascinating, I did find it slightly limiting, potentially. Because what these researchers are really describing is permission. Permission to pause, permission to reassess, permission to begin again. Not that the researchers are giving people permission, but that the data that they've come up with is saying that these landmark moments give people permission. So here's my question. Why are we outsourcing that to a calendar, to a special date? Here's where I want to take the research one step further and bring it into the work we actually do together. The study identifies temporal landmarks as moments that actually exist. Shared ones, New Year's, the first of the month, a new semester, and personal ones, a birthday, an anniversary, a job change. And what makes them powerful is that they create a line between your past self and the person you're choosing to become. But what if you drew that line yourself? What if you created your own personal landmark? Not one the calendar handed you, not one tied to a season or a celebration, but one you simply decided on. Today, this moment, because you decide it was time. That is the work. That is exactly what I talk about with the people I work with. You do not need permission from a date. You do not need to wait for the conditions to be perfect for the timing to feel right. The most powerful personal landmark you will ever create is the one you choose on what looks like an ordinary day, because you decided that today is the day that things are going to shift. And I know this is true, not just because the research supports it. I know it because I lived it. Last December, I had this idea, this crazy idea, slightly terrifying. Where did this even come from kind of idea to start a podcast? Now, I have had ideas before, many of them, and what I have historically done, and I'm owning this, is that I find something, I get excited about it, and then I do a little bit of research, and I find little articles, and I neatly tuck everything into a binder, and very rarely to look at it again. The binder, it goes onto a shelf and lives there quietly until one day I find it and I open it and I say, oh my goodness, this was such a great idea. I should try and implement this. But this time I decided to follow the breadcrumbs that were being cast out in front of me. I just needed to pick them up along the way. So every time I came across something connected to starting a podcast, an article, a conversation, a post, something that stopped me mid-scroll, instead of saving it somewhere like in the binder, I wrote it on a sticky note and put it on my desk where I had to look at it every day. And then I had to do the one thing I tell everyone else to do, which is to block some time to work on the project. Not think about booking it, not intend on booking it, actually open the calendar and book it in. Set some time aside to learn, time to research, time to sit with the questions of whether this was really something I was going to be able to do. And then I went through a very specific set of questions because that's what I do. I ask myself questions to try and find the answers. Do I have the time to commit to a weekly podcast? Do I have the support? Why do I actually want to do this? How much can I do on my own? And where do I need help? But the question that cut through it all, the only one that really mattered in the end, was this: what's stopping me? And the answer was me. Just me and my fear. My fear of getting it wrong, my fear of nobody wanting to listen, my fear of the technology overwhelming me and feeling embarrassed. So I said out loud to myself, well then, Michelle, it's time to get out of your own way and make this happen. And here we are, 6 months in, I have reached that first goal. And now I get to stand here and ask, what's next? For me? For you? And that's the question I want to bring to you today, because we are just about at the halfway point of the year, as I mentioned before. Not the most conventional fresh start, I know that. But as I've just made the case, we don't need conventional. We just need today. So wherever you are right now, whether you knocked your first 6 months out of the park or whether you've got a list somewhere with nothing checked off, let's use this moment. Let's make this your personal landmark. Here's what I want you to do. Ask yourself the same question I asked myself. What's stopping me? And be honest, because the answer lives in 2 places. Either there is a real practical barrier, time, resources, support, and that barrier has a solution we can actually work on together, or the answer is you. And if the answer is you, then you already know what the next step is. Now, here's the part where it gets practical, because a personal landmark without an action is just a nice idea. There are 2 kinds of things that tend to sit on our lists. The first is the physical task, the thing that just needs to get done. The letter on the table with the stamp already on it, that one? You can do that one easily. You just have to walk down to the mailbox and pop it in. Mail it and it's done. That small act of completion creates something real. It opens up space in your mind and your body to take on what comes next. The second kind is the goal that has something attached to it. Emotion, history, a kind of stuckness you can't quite name. That one needs more. It needs time set aside. It needs to be broken down, and sometimes it needs a conversation with someone who can help you work through what's underneath it. And that is not a weakness. That is knowing yourself well enough to get the right kind of support for the goal you want to achieve. Both matter, both count, but start with one you can move on today, because that momentum is real and it can build. I talk a lot about accountability and sustainability in the work I do, in the programs, in the conversations, and everything we weave together here. Because starting is one thing, continuing is another. What I've learned over these 6 months with this podcast is that as it grows, so has my confidence. Not the other way around. I didn't wait until I felt confident to start. I started and the confidence followed. The barriers that felt big at the beginning feel different now, not because they disappeared, but because I kept showing up anyway. That's the sustainability piece. It's not about being perfect at all. It's about staying in it long enough to see what you're actually capable of. So, halfway through the year, unconventional moment, perfect timing. You have the power to make today the day. Not September, not January, not next Monday, but today. What's the one thing? Write it down, record it. Then identify what's the very first step you can take today to move it forward. You are in charge of your own minutes, so it's time to make those minutes matter. I believe that, and I hope today you do too. Thanks for being here. Until next time, keep listening to your pulse. Thank you for listening to this episode of Your Productivity Pulse. You're not alone in this. We're all learning how to navigate our time in a way that actually supports our lives. If you want a simple place to start, grab the free Time Disruptor checklist in the show notes and join the community. Let's start noticing what's getting in the way so we can begin to make the shift. Remember, intention plus accountability equals productivity. Until next time, keep listening to your pulse.